Okay, so at 5:50 p.m. we'll call the meeting to order. And this meeting is accessible to people with disabilities. Microphones or telephones will be used by all speakers. Large print materials are available upon advance request. If you would like either of these accommodations, please contact Mary Waldron at 508-583-1833. Secondly, the notice of non-discrimination rights and protections to beneficiaries with regard to the federal Title VI non-discrimination protections and the state non-discrimination protections is posted in the meeting room and is available on the Old Colony Planning Council website. Please contact Mary Waldron at 508-583-1833 for more information. Thank you. Okay, so we've done the call to order and the accessibility statement. Next would be if you would do the roll call of members.
Yes, Becky Coletta,
Present.
Stephen Santisonio,
Present.
Lee Hartman,
Present.
Sandra Wright,
Present.
and Frank Staffier, who is on mute right now, but he's present. And just for the record, Madam Chair, for the staff, besides myself, Charles Kilmer, Brenda Robeson, Sean Noel, and Megan Fournier.
And Mary, for the record, Frank can hear you.
Oh,
We're just struggling
perfect.
to get his microphone working.
Thank you very much, Sean.
Thank you. Okay, and now we have the October 25th, 2022 meeting minutes that have gone out. Does anybody have any questions or comments on the minutes? Everybody good? Then do we have someone who wants to make a motion to accept the minutes of October 25th, 2022?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Steve.
Yeah.
Do we have a second?
Lee Hartman, I'll second.
Thank you, Lee. Okay, all in favor?
I'll
Roll
take a-
call?
yes. So Becky Coletta,
Yes.
Stephen Santisonio,
Yes.
Lee Hartman,
Yes.
Sandra Wright.
Abstain because I was not there.
Thank you. And I believe we lost Frank. So I will, but that is unanimous.
Okay. Now, Brenda, if you want to take over going through the reports.
Okay. The statement of expenditures report shows total expenses for the month of $222,639.94. Moving to the cash position report. Shows income for the month of $798,802.03. Disbursements for the month were $674,431.20. The total cash available at month's end was $1,315,541.25. The OPEB account had a gain, yay, of $27,748.78, bringing the ending balance in the OPEB account to $867,845.19. Moving ahead to the budget resources report. Total receipts for the month being $798,802.03 brings the total year-to-date receipts to $1,501,325.46. Moving ahead to the AAA report, the AAA pass-through program's total outstanding balance is $807,071.18. The outstanding balance for AAA admin and ombudsman programs was $194,084.32. This brings the total outstanding balance for all AAA programs at the end of October to $1,051,155.50. Voluntary transportation account, the beginning balance was $177,608.72. Restricted fund payments to the volunteers was $1,077.52. There were no donations received into the fund, bringing the ending balance in the fund to $176,531.20. The ROM statement and
Actually,
activity.
Brenda, if we could just go back just to AAA for one quick second. And
Okay.
it really is just the last couple of meetings we've talked about is that there have been a slow trickle of some of the funds we have seen an uptick. And so while now we're back to the typical behind schedule that the state has paying us, but I just wanted to make sure that the board members know that we are making some advancements and getting what is owed so we can then pay our vendors.
Yes, yes, they're definitely catching up. We got a very big payment, so. Okay, ROM statement and activity. The balance at the beginning of the month was $176,273.57. No receipts recorded in October. The total current receipts in FY '23 was $17,550. Expenses were $3,506.57, bringing the total expenses in FY '23 to $22,208.45. The ending statement balance was $174,971.74.
So Brenda, thank you. If we can just hold again on this one is, I wanted to give the members of the Finance Committee a little bit of a heads up while it's not in this month's report, is that we have been making some improvements to this building. We've cleared out the back rooms and we will be renting out that space. And we should be getting income to the tune of about $2,000 a month. It is to our, it's actually to our IT consultant who's been looking for space and did not want to leave the area. And so we will be seeing those expenses for the month of November. For the most part, most of it's been there. So it's, well, we will be, while there are funds that are going out, and I had an estimate of about $8,500 in expenses to clean out the junk, get new rug, put new lightings, and a paint back there. But in 4 months, we'll be able to make that expense up. So it's a win-win. They're a great organization. They were looking for space, and we're just going to continue to work out the details. So that's the status while it's not in this month's report, but that you'll be seeing those expenses coming in the next couple months. Thanks, Brenda.
No problem. Moving ahead to the budget spend down report. Okay, page 1 shows total expenditures for the month were $697,067. The spent to date percentage rate at the end of October was 29.09%. The ideal percentage in the 4th month of our fiscal year would be 33.34%. So at month's end, we had a 4.25% surplus. Okay, page 2, budgeted income has the following changes, which increased the original income amount. Wildlands Trust has been added for $10,000. EDA tools and grant data grant funds have been reduced. This is because originally we were showing the full grant amount. Since this grant goes over a 2-year period, the amount in FY '23 will show only 50% of the grant funds, with the rest moving to FY '24. Page 3.
Can I ask, just curious, what the Wildlands Trust item is?
Mary?
Yeah, I'm happy to report that. Wildland Trust has been involved with the city of Brockton and DW Field Park. One of our staff members who happens to be involved with an organization called the Friends of DW Field Park, but they've granted us funds to create a survey and do some engagement outreach. We've also done some traffic, pedestrian, and bike ped for them. And the good news is that we have additional funding that they're going to look to engage us further. So it's a great partnership, and I know they're based out of Plymouth.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Page
I ask
3. I'm sorry.
Can I ask a quick question, Mary? Do we have with the economic development money, do we have enough at this point grants to keep our staff in place? I know
Yes,
when we were doing the budget, that was a question,
it
and
was. It
I'm a
was.
little unclear right now where we are on
That's
that.
okay. That's a very good question. And in fact, you are correct. We had an issue in terms of some carryover. So what has happened in the meantime, because it was specifically on one of our staff, and we've had some contracts, individual contracts with communities such as the town of Stoughton. And so that brought in additional funding. As you can see here, the HPP is about 15,000. So the city of Brockton has a pending contract that's going to be valued about 30,000. So in that transition from one fiscal year when one of the federal grants ended to this new fiscal year, we've all been very aggressive in terms of looking for funding. It has come in addition to that, because we lost a staff member. But we also gained a staff member. And if you remember, it was in the newsletter if you had not seen it, but Don Sullivan used to work over at Serpent, is now working for us here at OCPC. And he is so targeted about getting EDA funds that I have a feeling that we will be able to continue to support for a very long time the staff that we have. For those that may not know, we had divided the Community Planning and Economic Development Department into two separate. And what that did with that was very helpful for us to then have a targeted resources for economic development and targeted fundings for community planning and environmental and sustainability. So long answer is, with some time, we were able to hold off and be able to get us through I would say that it was a very tenuous time, because we were very concerned. But again, with the loss of an employee who was here, and then being able to bring in some additional funding, we are in good shape.
Okay, thank you.
I appreciate your concern, Becky. So thank you.
Anybody else have anything? Okay, moving ahead to page 3, pass-through funds, income shows.
Can you
no
tell
change.
that Brenda's all about numbers?
Uh-huh.
No, we're moving right along. The pass-through income shows no changes.
Thank you.
And then lastly is the list of combined accounts payable and cash transfers for the month of October.
Thank you, Brenda.
You're welcome.
That will need a vote, Madam Chair.
I'll move Lee Hartman to approve.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Stephen.
Yep.
Roll call, Mary, please?
Yes, Becky Coletta,
Yes.
Stephen Santasonio,
Accept, yes.
Lee Hartman,
Accept.
Sandy Wright,
Yes,
and Frank Staffier. I'm assuming that Frank's a yes, even though he's on mute. So thank you.
Okay, so now we have the October financials capital expenses.
Actually, those
You've
were
already covered that, right?
Correct.
Okay. So now we have the status of the audit RFP covering fiscal year 23 to 25. Brenda, if you want to just update us on where we are with that RFP.
Okay. We've sent out a total of 10 RFPs. We have only gotten one back so far, which was for year 1 at $69,000, which is really, really just it's just not going to happen. We do have one for sure that they have contacted me. They're working on it. They're going to get it back to us shortly. And another one of the auditors called me directly and said that he's trying very hard to get it together before the deadline to get that to us. So I expect at least 2 more. We have had 3, I believe, no's. One of those would be Markham, is not renewing. And that's really about it. The deadline, the hard deadline is December 7th. But at this point, if anyone asks for a little bit more time, we'll probably go ahead and give it, because we need to get some RFPs to work with. And December 7th is nice and early. We set a very early date.
Yes.
So I know we're going to get a few more, and hopefully something will be in our ballpark.
Brenda, there was I know that one of the people we talked about along the way was a firm that does work for one of the other regional planning
There were a
authorities.
few of them actually that does work for other. yeah.
Are any of those people who are submitting?
One of them was Roland Lambalot. Unfortunately, he was a no. I'm not sure why. And he was one that I was really hoping to get an RFP from. And the other one was Melanson, which also was a no. Something happened with the email. She didn't get it until later. And now she said it's such a busy time of the year that they just don't have time to put together an RFP. But she definitely wants us to keep them on the list to reach out to them next time. You know, she did give me a whole, they've apparently changed their email address, but it's not indicated on their website. So she gave me a new email address that we didn't even know existed. So that's
Brenda,
just
you know what
unfortunate.
what may be helpful, and even though, because you really have done a great job in vetting out suggestions, not only internally, but we've received a couple suggestions from some council members, but maybe we can just share just with this finance committee after this meeting, just share the Excel spreadsheet with whom you have reached out to, who's a no.
Okay.
And who we haven't reached, that could, just so they can put their eyes on the listing, and perhaps if they see that there may be one firm that they're aware of that may have an interest, that they can get back to you. There's
Okay.
still some time, so let's do that for after this meeting.
Okay, I can do that.
Thanks, Brenda.
Thanks.
You're
I
welcome.
was just hoping that one of those would bid because they would know how to do our
Right.
audit more
Me
easily.
too. I almost cried when with Melanson, the Melanson firm called me, and I was like, oh, I'm so bummed out. I was really wanting to get an RFP
Oh,
from you guys.
I think
And-
you think you cried even more when Markham said no.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah.
A little bit.
Well, I'm just wondering, the people who said they're too busy, I take it another week wouldn't make a difference for them, right?
It may not, COVID has really hit the auditing, these auditing firms. It has really hit them hard. They're inundated with work because of it still. And, I've heard that from quite a few of them. They're just not taking new clients, and they're getting rid of some of their old clients because they can't handle the workload. So, we're still getting the fallout from COVID when it comes to that. So what are you going to do?
Okay. Well, the next item on the agenda is the status of the FY22 audit with Markham.
It's going smoothly. Russell plans to have the draft audit to us for review in early December. I do not anticipate any issues which would delay the audit whatsoever. It's been pretty smooth. He's gotten married in the middle of the audit work time, so he's off on his honeymoon. But he assured us that he will have it to us. And again, I don't anticipate that there will be any issues where I have to send it back and say, no, something's wrong here, that sort of thing. So I think once we get the draft, I think it'll be smooth after that.
Any questions about the audit RFP or the status of the audit before we move on?
No, but just that, Brenda, in January, that's when Markham will be presenting
Yes,
their.
it
audit
should be
findings.
the January 24th or the January 25th meeting, or both.
But right, they'll be going first to finance. We'll have a draft to you before the meeting in advance, and then it'll be taken up first with finance and then to the full council.
Yes,
Thank you.
that's the plan.
All right, great. The next item on the agenda is the status of the bank accounts, which I think everyone got an email about that, right? But Brenda or Mary, you want to talk us through that?
Brenda?
Yes. Okay. The bank accounts and signatories for future years. First of all, Harbor One Bank. We have two accounts. One is a business advantage savings account, which has a current balance of $105,492 and change. That account is currently compounding about $8 and change in interest each month, and is charging us a $2 a month dormant account fee. The second account is a Harbor One business money market account. The current balance in that account is $103,432 and change. That account is compounding about $13 and change monthly in interest and is charging us a $2 dormant account fee. At the January 2022 meeting, it was decided that we need to close that particular Harbor One accounts and move the balances into another bank. In order to do that, 2 signers need to physically go into the branch to close the accounts. The registered signers on that account currently are Lee Hartman, Bob Moran, and Fred Gilmetti. Mary, Bob, and Lee are have scheduled an appointment to go into the bank next week to close those accounts. As the fiscal officer, I recommend moving these funds directly into a new bank. I would further like to recommend Eastern Bank in Brockton. Their customer service is excellent. I deal with them on a personal basis and have for years. They have a featured CD for amounts over 100,000 for 12 months that has an interest of 3.56%. They have a business select money market savings that has a 0.5 annual yield, which is compounded monthly. I did research other banks and they all stand at around the same interest amounts for the equivalent kind of accounts. They're all about the same. I found none that had higher rates than this. Again, they're all just about the same. So, I would like to, if anyone has any other banks they would like to suggest, feel free to, to let us know, because once they go in next week and close those accounts, they'll come out with very large checks that we then have to put somewhere quickly. The Northeastern accounts are all set. The current signers are Christine Joy and Sandra Wright from last year, and Doug Silvestri. We have online access to that account, even though I've never used the online. I have to find the passcodes in order to get into there for online stuff. But the new signers with the proper ID and a current signer have to physically go into the bank to make these changes. Nothing they can send us for Head Start on paperwork. So our new signers, Becky and
Val.
Becky, need to go physically into the bank with a current signer giving permission, and Mary as well, because we are going to be adding Mary onto all these accounts as a signer so that we don't have these holdups because there's nobody in-house to even call and get information. So that's the status of the Northeastern account. So we need to make arrangements for people to go in and get those changes done to get the new signers on the account. Even though the signers for those accounts, we don't have an active checking account. It's really just if we need to move the money for any reason, it's just complicated to do it if we don't have a current signer on board. So it needs to be done. So, SCU credit union accounts were closed in November 2021. Those funds were moved into Rockland Savings. Signers on Rockland Savings are still Christine Joy and Sandra Wright and Doug Silvestri. We're working on changing to new signers, including Mary Waldron, and removing the old. They are all set with current signers at the moment. We do have online access to those accounts. But again, we have the paperwork that needs to get signatures, and we need to get copies of licenses, which then need to be sent to the bank. Rockland is, because we have a good customer service connection and a person that I've connected with over the years who knows me, they're willing to do lots of things online without everyone having to physically go into the bank every 2 minutes. So we just need to get signatures for Val and
Becky.
Becky. I'm having a terrible time with names
That's
tonight.
okay.
So will Val be at the summit as well?
Yes, she will.
Okay, so at the summit, Sean's going to bring those things that need signatures. We do need to get copies of the driver's license. So if you could come prepared with copies of your driver's license, that would be helpful. They need that identification to go with their
Brenda, on
information.
the status of the bank accounts, do you have this in a Word document or Excel spreadsheet?
I did what you, the status, well, I mean, I have it in my cheat sheet, yes.
Oh, okay.
It's
All right.
definitely, that's definitely a Word document.
Okay, I don't know if does anybody need to see a hard copy of, okay. If
I mean, the
anybody-
balances are all in the cash reports, which go out, which
Yep.
is part of the
That's-
financial reports. But, you know, the information that all the information that I just gave, but I can easily capture the paragraph with this banking information and send them out. That's easy enough to do if you want me to.
If anybody is interested, just let Brenda know.
And that's really about it for the bank accounts. I mean, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have
Hello.
5 different Rockland Trust accounts that we are monitoring, and they're all set and no problems or issues at all with those accounts. Okay, does anybody have any questions?
I think, Brenda, the only question that we had, there was, I think, an action item on this one is that you need a vote. We probably need a vote from this committee to close the Harbor One account, which is where we're ending. And then if there was a preference from the committee if there was a preference from the committee to put it in any kind of an institution, whether it was another bank or a credit union.
And also, do we want to split it up like it is now? You know, perhaps take that 1-year CD because it gathers more interest than anything else. I think having that, you know, money in a CD for 1 year is perfectly logical and acceptable. And, you know, and then at the end of the year, we can decide whether we want to renew it and open a new CD.
So Brenda, you are recommending the following, just so it's clear, so they'll know.
Yes.
You are
I'm recommending, I would like to suggest Eastern Bank and putting one of the accounts, one of the amounts into a CD for the 3.56% interest. It has to be over $100,000 and it has to be a 12-month minimum. And then the other amount to go into a money market savings account, which doesn't get a lot of interest, but it's quickly available should we need it. So that's what I would recommend and suggest if anyone has any objections at all.
So I just want to put that in the form of a motion because we can't reference a specific interest rate because that might change.
Understood?
So I want to see if someone would make a motion to close the Harbor One account and take one of the accounts in
Yes.
excess of $100,000 and put it into a CD at Eastern Bank and take the second account and put it into a money market at Eastern Bank. I am going to recuse myself from this vote because my husband works at Harbor One. But I'm going to ask someone to make that motion and second that motion. And then Mary can do a roll call.
Lee Hartman, I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Thank you. And on the motion, Becky Coletta's recusing herself. Stephen Santisonio,
Accept, yes.
Lee Hartman,
Yes.
Sandra Wright,
Yes.
and Frank Staffier. So he's got a thumbs up. That's recorded as in favor. Thank you, Frank. So that is unanimous with one person recused. Thank
Okay,
you.
great.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much, Brenda. I know we went through a lot of stuff, but it was this will help clarify and make things heading into 2023 clear. Thank you.
Yeah, and the only other thing I want to add is we need to aggressively get, the new signers. We need to get
Yes,
people to go into the Northeast and to make those changes.
We will.
If not in December, at least early in the year. I mean, it's the money's just sitting there. It's not a big deal, but we do need to have new signers changed.
we will take these off one at a time and then start working with that. And that will be between you and Sean working with the board members. So thank you.
Okay.
So I know we kind of have this squeezed in between, and I can just go right into the fiscal policy. So we have entertained some scope of work with Doug Silvestri, our former board member, and he's been taking fiscal policies that have been utilizing and creating our own fiscal policies. It's not ready for prime time to share with you, but Brenda, Charlie, and myself met today and took what Doug has prepared so far, and we're really further culling through that and making some changes. I would say we would have something for you in a draft form to have you look at. And then perhaps if the January meeting isn't so tight, either January or February, to have a meeting that we can meet with Doug to go over the fiscal policies. It's really going to be helpful, just like what we've done with our bylaws, just what we've done with our personnel policies. These fiscal policies are going to be really helpful for continuity purposes as well as for sustainability and transparency. So again, thank you to Brenda, because she put together some format. Christine Joy had provided us with some samples, but we should have this work be completed with Doug probably by the end of the fiscal year, of the calendar year, sorry.
Great.
So that's just a report. There's no action that's required at this point.
When you were talking about fiscal policies and what we've done, it reminded me of OPEB. And I'm just, I know that is something that's been a work in progress to sort of nail down those details. I just wonder if at the same time we're working on that, if it makes sense to start to think about whether or not we're going to look at something like the Plymouth County OPEB management, whether we're going to start to look at the fiscal decisions, or if we want to wait until we have everything tied up and the election taking place
Correct.
before we start to look at the performance of different managers.
And Becky, thank you. Doug and I had exchanged, because he wanted the most up to date where we were on that, and he will be holding that in, but we're not, we're going to wait for these fiscal policies. We really want to move forward on the OPEB and the election process. So not ready for today's meeting, unfortunately, but certainly will be in much better stead for January.
Okay, great. I'm sort of curious to look at the numbers again, and Sandy, maybe you know the answer as to how, because Plymouth County had a very strong performance, but we've been through a tough cycle in the stock market. So it'll be curious to see how Rockland Trust has performed, or how our accounts have performed relative to the Plymouth County results and other managers. So it'll be an interesting process.
And Becky, you raised actually when you mentioned Rockland Trust, so they have made an inquiry into Brenda and myself to see if we want to have them come in to report. I, at this point, had just said we were going through a lot of different things to hold off. Because again, as you said, the market's been a little bit chaotic. So let's, what I'll do is between now and our January meeting, certainly set some clarity to this, and then whether we bring it up before the meeting, before the January meeting, or about whether Rockland Trust should come in and give a presentation of what, because they currently have our product, have the, so we may want to just have them come in to present where things are and use that again as a basis point for doing some comparison as we move forward.
Sounds good. All right. Anybody have any other financial questions tonight, or should we entertain a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Lee Hartman, second.
Okay, all in favor. I think we can do this just with
Yes.
a
Aye.
nice wave.
Aye.
And Frank Staffier has given his thumbs up as well, Madam Chair. And just again, the next meeting really is going to be next week's with the summit. And I know that I will be seeing pretty much all of you there. We really look forward to your support and to have a little holiday cheer as well. So thank you.
Great. See you next
Sounds
week.
great.
Thank
Thank
Night,
you.
everybody. Thanks.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.